Since the last video, I aligned and constrained the gap pads to the PCB, as well as moved that second PCB 11 millimeters in the Z direction. So now all the geometry is placed in the correct location. Now let's talk about material priority. So if you have overlapping geometry, by default, the last material here under solid materials will take precedence. Now, if you want to modify that, you can go under Tools, Material Priorities, and change the material priorities here. The reason this list is bigger than the one we see on the left is because this includes all material from your project, including the sub-projects from components. In our model, we have these two gap pads, and they are overlapping space with the enclosure. Now you can go into the CAD and make these gap pads smaller so that the enclosure and the gap pad is adjacent, but it would be a lot easier to decide which materials should take precedence using this list here. So here we see the default material, which is the enclosure aluminum on the very bottom, and that will always be the case for all FloEFD projects. The default lowest priority will be the material that you selected under general settings. So for us here, we want this overlapping space to be aluminum. So we will click on this and go ahead and click up and hit apply. Another feature here in material priorities is you can select this highlight geometry. So if you're unsure what's selected, you can now select the gap pad and see them highlighted. If we highlight the typical plastic package, it highlights all the components. The aluminum will highlight the enclosure, and so on. Okay, at this point we can hit apply and close this window. Now let's talk about Component Explorer. Component Explorer allows you to view, edit, and create new features for all your components in your model in this one area. So you have the ability to change the material, volume source, surface sources, printed circuit boards, 2-resistor components, and LEDs. So for example, if we look through our model here, let's say we want to change the material of our gap pad. We can see all our different materials from our engineering database here. The properties to the selected features is listed on the right side here. Let's say I would like to apply a volume source to this gap pad. All I'd have to do is double click here, type in a value, hit enter, and if I hit apply, you can see it was just generated in our FloEFD feature tree here. I could have also, for example, created a 2-resistor component here. I could have just typed in a power value here and then selected a 2-resistor component from our engineering database here. Now, a lot of these components being displayed here are coming in from our sub-projects under From Components, and they cannot be modified here under our main project Component Explorer. So there's two methods to use Component Explorer for these sub-projects. One is open up the project individually, where you can use Component Explorer to create or modify the features of the components in that sub-project. Then you can save that sub-project, go to From Components, hit Update All, and it will be updated here in your main project. Or the second method could be just to simply move the features here under this sub-project into your main project. So all we have to do is expand that. I could select either individually or all of them at once. Right-click, move to project. Now that they are in the main project, you can of course modify them here, edit definition, but we'll go back to Component Explorer. And now at Component Explorer, you can modify them here just by changing the value. Now also, for situations like this where you have many values you can change, if it's easier for you to do in a spreadsheet, you can export this into a spreadsheet, and it would look something like this, where then here you can modify your features. In this case, we're looking at the volume sources, save this spreadsheet, export it, and then in Component Explorer, import it. It will update the different features that you've changed in your spreadsheet. Then you can hit apply, and it will apply all of them for your FloEFD project.